considering all the trouble you've got into this week, I don't think it's quite the time for special treats, do you? Okay, fine, I said. But it wasn't. In the afternoon, my mom had to go to her yoga class, and my brother had to go to his Saturday playgroup. My dad was around, but he was up on the second floor taking care of a plumbing issue. Usually on Saturday afternoons, Margaret and I played together, but now Margaret was not my friend anymore, so I had nothing to do, not even eat gummy worms and watch a video for 3 whole hours until I could go back to get the polka picture. Then I realized I didn't exactly know where I should put the picture once I got it. What I needed was one of the top windows right in the middle of the building where it would scare off the pigeons. Margaret's apartment was on the 5th floor, but I didn't think Margaret's mother was about to let a common criminal use her window. The man who lives on the 6th floor smells like mothballs, so I never visit him. The people who live on the 7th floor were away on vacation while their apartment got painted. Which reminded me, I flew up to the 7th floor to see if the painters wanted help yet. Nobody answered the apartment door when I knocked, but the painters' stilts and all their brushes and paint cans were out in the hall. The hall hadn't been painted yet, which gave me a great idea. I could do it for them. Then when they got back on Monday, they'd smack their foreheads and say, "Wow, I must be dreaming." Faces. They'd wonder who had done such a great thing until I went up and told them, "Oh, it was just me." I was smiling about all of this while I strapped the stilts onto my legs. But when I tried to stand up, I fell right over. I tried again, and I fell over again. 29 times, which was plenty because, believe me, so I was all done being there. On the way down, the elevator stopped at the 5th floor. I got a little excited when Margaret got in and smiled at me. But then 1 second later, Amanda Lee got in too. "Hi, Clementine. We're going to the mall," Margaret said. I turned around and pretended to be very busy pushing all the buttons until they got off. Then I went to my room and drew a picture of me at the mall with a lot of new best friends. Finally, it was time to go to the copy shop, and I ran all the way, even though I probably had 2 broken legs from all that falling. "Dad," I yelled. Oops. When the clerk brought out the picture of Polka Dotty, my heart hurt so much I couldn't breathe for a moment. She looked so beautiful, big. She looked so beautiful that big, and I missed her so much. I quickly sucked in some air so I wouldn't faint, and then I said, "Thank you," and took Polka Dot home, being careful not to fold her because she would have hated that. When I got to my building, I looked up through all the pigeons. At the very top of the building was old Mrs. Jacoby's apartment. I tucked the big picture of Polka Dot under my arm, took the elevator to the 8th floor, and knocked on Mrs. Jacoby's door. "Can I put this in the window?" I asked. "The one in the middle of your living room?" Mrs. Jacoby said, "Why, certainly, dearie," without even asking why. And suddenly she didn't look so old or boring. When I went to the window and opened it, when I looked down, I could see the backs of 1,000,000 cooing pigeons. They covered every windowsill, every balcony, every ledge, every brick that stuck out even an inch. In between, I could see the sidewalk in front of the building, still wet from my dad's washing. I guess this was what my dad meant about seeing things from a different angle. But I didn't understand how it could help. Mrs. Jacoby came over beside me and shook half a box of Cheerios onto the windowsill. The pigeons flapped up in one huge gray cloud, and my brain snapped. "Hey! Hey!" I ran out of Mrs. Jacoby's apartment and all the way down to my own, 8 times 12 stairs, which equals 96. "Dad," I yelled, "what if the pigeons lived on the side of the building instead of the front? Would that be okay?" "That would be great," my dad said, "a miracle. Except, of course, first you have to convince 1,000,000 pigeons to move." "But if I could, would that solve the problem?" You wouldn't care if they messed all over the sidewalk and the side alley? Nope, not a bit. Nobody uses it. That alley could be knee-deep in pigeon splat, and nobody would even notice. Fire away, I'd say. And then I ran all the way back up the stairs to Mrs. Jacoby's apartment and went right inside since the door was still open, because that's how fast I was. I'll run for your Cheerios every week, I told her. You won't even have to ask me. Every day, if you want. But will you stop feeding the pigeons from up here? Will you feed them from a side window instead? I took her into the dining room and showed her a perfect place. Let's start today, I said, and I sprinkled out the rest of the box of Cheerios. And even though pigeons have teeny tiny bird brains, they got the message right away. Because right away, a big flop of them flapped over. And it was even better for Mrs. Jacoby because this was her dining room. So now she could see those pigeons while she was eating. And then I was all done being there, so I ran back home to tell my dad the good news. He and my mom were in the kitchen starting dinner, so I told them, and I told them, and I told them, and my dad kept saying, "Way to go, sport." And my mom kept saying, "Thank goodness. Now you don't have to spend your life cleaning up after those pigeons." They were so happy, but my parents were sneaky too. Somehow, while I was telling them about Mrs. Jacoby, one of them slipped me a colander of green beans and brainwashed me into snapping them. I didn't really care, though. Seeing the "wow, I must be dreaming" faces on my parents was even better than it would have been seeing them on the painters. Unfortunately, they didn't have those faces very long. After dinner, my mother said she'd better get a little work done. Then she went to the cupboard to get her special markers, which were still in Margaret's room. "You used not the permanent. Those are for wet, were you?" It's a very bad sign when my mother can't finish her sentences. "They're at Margaret's," I told her. "They're fine, not even chewed on. I'll go get them." "Oh, no," said my father. "We'll go get them. I think it's time we had a talk with Margaret's mother anyway. You'll go sit in your room and think about things." So I went to my room and thought about things, like Margaret's mother explaining to my parents about the easy one, hard one rule.